So let's find our sit bones. Drop nice and tall. And let's take a minute to just kind of check in. Do a few little micro movements. Wiggle that body around, including your toes, your fingers, and places you don't really think about moving. So some of those places would be like the rib cage. A lot of times we move through life so stiff that we forget that each one of our ribs is actually a joint. Each one of our vertebrae is a joint. So just kind of explore that. See if you can get a sense of where there's resistance and where there's movement. And then see how that lower spine, the lumbar spine, sits down into that pelvis. So our hips on women are up higher, men are out a little wider, down a little lower. They just are different. The hip girdle comes up higher on men, and on women it splays out. We're made for, more giving birth. So we have a girth for birth. And wiggle through that. See if you can feel that pelvis, even though you're sitting, be separate from your leg joints, from your spine. Even the pelvis is two separate pieces joined at the pubic bone by a piece of cartilage. So feel if you can just drop into that and have an awareness of those bones on the inside of you. And then notice your knees. Sometimes as you twist through the pelvis, you can get a little movement through the knees and the ankles. And then the toes, the phalanges, the metatarsals, toes. So the feet and the ankle and the knees, they move us through life. They take all of everything that we give them, the impact, whatever happens in our life as we move forward. And then bring those shoulders up to your ears. Draw them back and down. Get a sense of those shoulder blades, how they're really separate from the rib cage. Roll them up, back, and down. And notice if you can feel how sometimes when we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, those shoulder blades really support that. And sometimes we get this weird sensation of heaviness in our shoulders. What would it feel like to just free that up? And then bring those shoulders up to our ears and roll them forward. And sitting right underneath our collarbone, right here, is the first rib. So there's a lot of free moving bones in this area that can get stuck and cause really interesting sensations in the body. Pain down the arm, carpal tunnel, pain up the neck, headaches, the pain in our neck. Energetically might be that, might be somebody in our life, never know. Just notice. Let it be what it is with no judgment. And as you complete those circles, when you have your eyes closed, bring those elbows down as if your arms could lengthen all the way to the floor. And then allow the backs of your hands to rest on your knees. Take a nice deep breath in, going up long through your crown. Let it out with a big sigh. Nice deep breath in. Big sigh. And drop in. Drop into that space of knowing that you're connected to the earth. The sit bones are anchoring down into your mat or onto your blanket. You're sinking back into that pelvic girdle. You're drawing up through the pelvic floor in a very gentle, soft way. Lengthening up through your crown. Noticing that as you engage the pelvic floor, you grow longer. And then imagining that I'm just coming behind you and gently placing my knee along your spine, encouraging you to grow longer. Find your breath and begin to soften into this strong, seated, easy pose. And so what makes this pose easy is it gives us the space to be able to let go of everything we no longer need, except what we need to sit up. Breathing into it. Embracing your power, your strength and stillness. Finding your breath. Inviting the Ujjayi breath in. Feeling the ribcage expand as you inhale. And as you exhale, a contraction through that pelvic floor and the rectus abdominis, drawing that belly button to your spine, expelling all the air. And then we're going to begin to even out the breath. Inhaling, 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 inhaling. So 4 parts, pausing for 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the top of the exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And again. So inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to let you go on your own. We're going to do 5 rounds. Three more rounds. If you're rushing, slow down. If you're slower than me, keep your pace. Last round. Wherever you are, keep going. Do 1 more round. Take a nice deep inhale. Blow it all the way out and fold over as you're blowing it out. Big inhale up. Settling back into Ujjayi. Tightening the back of your throat, hearing the ocean. Noticing the breath. How does the breath move now? Is it more even? Do you have a sense of evenness in the inhale and the exhale? Just notice. On the next inhale, bring the hands up overhead, inhaling nice and big. We're going to just do some seated half sun salutations, exhaling it out. So pretty much that's just your arms. So inhaling the hands up overhead, exhaling the hands down, inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, Exhaling down. We're getting ready to add on to this. Inhaling your hands up. This time, exhale, slowly swan dive forward, just as far as you go, leading with your heart, which may be to the floor, may not be to the floor, might be a long exhale, might be a short one. Inhaling back up. Noticing the sensations of the body. This time as you exhale, don't go anywhere. Let the hands go down. And then again, we're going to inhaling the hands up, leading forward with your heart into a slight forward fold. Inhaling your hands up. Exhaling, staying long and tall. Exhaling the hands down. Notice where your shoulders are going. Mine are coming up around my ears. So I'm going to just invite them to come down. Inhaling up. Exhaling, swan dive forward. Just kind of warming that low back, inviting it to come in. Be awake this morning. And this time as we exhale our hands down, we're going to take a pause, connecting our two first fingers, pointer finger, middle finger to the earth, almost as if you're making a peace sign and you're connecting to the earth. Drop out of your shoulders, take a deep breath in. Exhaling it out. Inhaling it in. Exhaling it out. One more time. So this mudra is a grounding posture. If you're feeling ungrounded, this is a great posture to do, whether you're standing or seated. You make the peace sign, you point it towards the earth, and it's almost as if electrically you're plugging into the earth. On the next inhale, inhaling the hands up overhead. And as you exhale, twist to the right. Twisting to the right, looking over that shoulder. Make it as deep as you want, and then back out of it just a little bit. This is an exercise and a practice of leading into something as hard as you possibly can, and then backing off of it to allow the release and the whatever you're working on to unfold before you. The harder we work at something, oftentimes the more it eludes us. So if we come up to it and we bump against resistance, so that would be our edge, and then we back off of it just even a little bit, drop out of our shoulders, grow long in our crown, inhale and exhale, you'll feel a sensation of softening, allowing the twist to deepen in its own time. So this is true in our daily lives also. What shows up on our mat will show up in our life. So if you're finding resistance and twisting, let's say, there's somewhere in your life that something that is so yummy and delicious might be resistant. You might be resistant to it. Sometimes that's the simple act of saying, no, thank you. On the next inhale, inhaling the hands up overhead. Exhaling, twisting the other direction. Here we go. Now notice how when you drop into this left side, what's different? Is your point of resistance deeper, or is it closer to the beginning of the twist? Mine is much closer. So go to the edge, take a nice deep inhale, exhale, back off, inhale. Feel the softening and the stillness. Creativity and inspiration comes in the stillness, the pause. Inhaling, exhaling, feeling the softening. If you feel a softening, explore it. Go into it a little deeper on the exhale. Notice if your point of resistance has changed. Maybe it's no longer resistance. It's just that's where you're going to find your work, is right there. Breathe into it. Find it. Embrace it. What's happening in the pelvic floor? The belly button? Is it to the spine? Notice that, are you clenching in the pelvic floor? So the way I like to encourage people to notice their pelvic floor is by doing a Kegel. You don't have to clench down like you're cinching off something so tight you don't want it to ever release. It's a gentle invitation to draw up through that supportive core muscle. Still breathing, still noticing the softening. On the next inhale, coming out of it, bringing those hands up overhead. Exhaling, swan dive forward. Notice if your swan dive forward is different. Is the low back still talking to you? Is it open more? Inhaling the hands up, exhaling them down. Fingertips to the floor, 1 and 2, or first finger and middle finger. Connect into the earth. Sometimes when we do twisting postures that require us to notice things, we'll move back up into our head. Let's bring ourselves back into the earth. Connect into those sit bones. Nice deep breath. On the next inhale, inhaling the hands up. This time we're going to exhale, headed to the right in a lateral motion. Feel the opening happen between your hip and your armpit, the base of that shoulder blade. This really catches the latissimus dorsi, all the serratus anterior. Those are all the muscles between the rib cage. Now, one thing that happens in my body, it's like, oh, we're doing this, so I want to go. My whole body wants to go. Anchor down through those sit bones. Anchor it down. Let the work be between the hip and the arm. We're opening the spine in a lateral movement. So the spine moves 6 directions. It moves in a forward fold. It moves in a back bend. It moves in a twisting left, inhaling, coming back up, exhaling the other direction. And it moves in a lateral motion side to side. So what happens as we go through life and gravity works its magic on us, as we lengthen up through our pelvic floor, and the physics of lifting up brings the whole body up through the crown. That helps elongate the spine, and moving the 6 directions helps to keep that spine. We're still breathing, by the way, in this lateral motion. Helps the spine stay supple and strong. Really important as gravity does its work. Inhaling, coming back up. Exhaling the hands down. Inhaling the hands up. Exhaling, swan dive forward. Inhaling back up. Exhaling your hands down center line. Take a minute, check in. What feels different right now than when you first sat down on your blanket? Just notice. Take a breath into that. Notice if you're looking up or if you're elongating through your spine, growing long through the crown. Where are your ribs? Are they over your hips? Are your shoulders over your ribs, which are over your hips? Are your ears over your shoulders and lengthening long through the crown? Just notice. Take a deep breath in. Set an intention for the day, just for your whole day. And then on the next inhale, really sink into that intention, allowing it to root down into the earth and reach up to the heavens. And then softening the hands down, we're going to move right into tabletop, coming right into this posture that is so known to us as we move through yoga, a foundation pose. Finding that your knees are under your hips and that your hands are underneath your shoulders, lengthening through your crown, lengthening through that tail. Bring that drop out of your spine, imagining I'm coming around and encouraging you to lift that belly button up to your spine. Drop those shoulders back, elongate through the crown. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it out. Notice what's happening in your body. With no judgment, just notice. And on the next inhale, dropping down into cow. Lift that tail up, lift the head up. Notice what's happening in the back body. And then exhaling up. Into cat, big stretch, inhaling down. Long inhale, exhaling up. Remember those count of 4? And then the pause for 4. And then inhaling down into cow for 4. And then the pause while you're in cow for 4. Really feel that spine moving forward. And then exhaling up, feeling it moving backwards. The suppleness, the strength of all those muscles around those spine. One more time, inhaling down. And exhaling up. Inhaling, coming all the way back into tabletop, lengthening through that right hand. Really reach it out like it's going to reach to the front wall. Scoop it underneath your left arm, coming into threading the needle and lowering down onto that shoulder and inviting a really beautiful twist in the upper body. The really exciting news is I can do that today and breathe into it. It's not breathtaking. If you find that this is breathtaking, back out of it. Be slower. Notice what's happening in the hips. Are they wanting to follow your shoulder? Engage that core, square them up. This is a great place where we get a little lazy in the pelvic floor because of the way we are. It's okay, you can still lift up gently. Bringing the belly button to the spine, breathing into it. Drinking in this twisting of the upper back. Breathe it in. Feel the resistance, which leads to the yumminess. One more breath. On the next inhale, coming out of it and lifting all the way up, reaching that arm up and over, twisting out of it, inviting that low back into the twist, breathing into it. Find your breath. Inhaling through your fingertips, coming right back down into tabletop. Find your tabletop. Now, as you pass through tabletop, lengthen through your crown, lengthen through your tail. Check in. How does that right side differ from the left side? Let's take 1 4-part cat-cow, inhaling for 4 all the way down into cow. 2, 3, 4, and pause. 2, 3, 4, and exhale up. 2, 3, 4, and pause. 2, 3, 4, and inhale into tabletop right here. Lengthening through that left arm, reach it out before you touch that wall, then reach it underneath that right arm and thread the needle all the way down onto your shoulders. You all will be very happy to know this is one of the most challenging poses I do. I'm very tight through the ribs, and so this is a great posture for me. Next to reverse triangle, this is probably my second hardest pose. And so it's really good for me. It's the challenging things that help us grow. If there is no challenge, there is no opportunity for great change and growth. Breathing in. Find your breath, even it out, dive breath, and bite it in. The next inhale, bring it out. Make sure that hand is under your shoulder, that right hand, and lift that hand all the way up. Spinning open, breathing into it, reaching it out. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. Nice deep inhale, coming back down, hands on the floor, hands underneath our shoulders, roll those shoulders back, find that tabletop, drop down 1 more 4-part, inhale, 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 pause, 2, 4. Exhaling up, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, coming right back into tabletop, curling the toes under and lifting straight up into downward facing dog. Here we are, first dog of the day. Let's walk it out. We haven't done any hamstrings yet. So, right leg down to the floor, left heel down to the floor, walking it out. Feeling those back of those legs begin to open. Walking the dog. Notice what's happening in your neck and shoulders. Are you holding your head? Just notice. No judgment. Inhaling up onto your toes, exhaling all the way back into your heels. Let that heart move in towards your knees, opening those shoulder blades, really feeling the opening through that middle back. Find your breath. Let's have 4 long Ujjayi breaths. One more all the way through. And on the next inhale, walk those feet forward, coming all the way to the front of your mat, all the way to the front of your mat, dropping all the way down into forward fold. So soften your knees so that your chest can come right down onto your quads. And then let the lift happen from the tail up, lifting straight up, forward fold, really sinking down into it. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. Breathing into it. Inhaling, sinking down. Exhaling, lifting up through the tail. Inhaling, sinking down. And as you sink down, bring those arms out in front of you, up over your head, and sink down into Uttanasana right here. Breathing into it. Make sure that pelvic floor is engaged. Sink down a little bit lower, like you're sitting back into a chair. And then inhaling, coming straight up, right up into tall mountain. Here we are, breathing into it, nowhere to go, nothing to do. Drawing your hands together, exhaling them down center line. Anjali Mudra, this is your point of resting. So if you need a break, standing resting is right here in Anjali Mudra. On the next inhale, we're going to inhale, drop the hands down, inhaling the hands up overhead, exhaling, swan dive forward, all the way forward, inhaling, halfway up, exhaling down, chest onto the knees, exhaling, lifting the tail, coming into full forward fold, inhaling, dropping down, exhaling. So these are just like little mini squats. Exhaling up into full extension of the legs, whatever your full extension is. My knees are still bent. Inhaling. One more of these, exhaling up through the back of the legs. Feeling that tail really lift and lengthen. And then inhaling, dropping down, bringing those arms right up next to your ears, and exhaling up into Uttanasana, sinking down, sitting down into it. Drop out of the shoulders. Hold that seated posture right here. Breathing into it. Feel the strength of the legs sinking back like you're going to sit on a chair. Uttanasana is actually called chair pose in English. So let's feel it. Find your breath. And then inhaling, rising straight up. Right here. Hands are shoulder width apart, or you can bring them together. My shoulders don't really do that. So I'm going to leave mine shoulder width apart. Growing long through the crown. Make sure your ears are over your shoulders. Opening your heart, engage your core, and exhale through that right hip. Let that right hip begin to travel to whatever wall is to your right. So as if somebody's going to come up and touch you right on your hip. So it's not a folding over of the waist, it's a lengthening through the body with an extension through that hip. Breathing into it. Inhaling, coming up. Exhaling the other way. Lengthening through it. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. Standing tall in half moon. Inhaling, coming back to center. Exhaling, swan dive forward. All the way forward, engage that core. Bend your knees if you have to touch the floor. Exhaling that tail up to the sky. Exhaling it up. Inhaling it down. Exhaling it up. Inhaling it down. Exhaling it up. Inhaling, sinking down, rising up into chair. This is our last chair. Sinking all the way back. All the way back. Little lower. Lengthen, strengthen the arms. Breathing into it. Growing strong and long in the body. Coming out of your shell. Bring that head out of your shell like a turtle, growing long. Inhaling, rising up. Exhaling your hands down. Right here, coming into full mountain pose. And if somebody is taking a hold of your right hand down below, say a small child, now we're going to lean from the waist. Now we're static in our lower body, leaning from the waist. Inhaling, coming back up. Exhaling, reaching down. Do this nice and slow. This is not a hurried thing. We hurry through life. This is a motion that we do if we're bending over to pick up a suitcase or a purse, a briefcase, something off the floor. So we're just going side to side. So we're inhaling to the center and we're exhaling, reaching down. Inhaling to the center, exhaling, reaching. Inhaling to the center, last time, exhaling, reaching down. Inhaling to the center, exhaling, reaching down. So if you're at the front of your mat, turn the long way on your mat so that you're standing in the center of your mat with the length of the mat on each side of you, right in the middle. Stepping those feet wide, okay? Coming into preparing for a 5-pointed star, but we're not going to do the arms. We're just going to drop our shoulders back behind us. We're going to spin out of the left foot, or whichever foot is handy for you. Doesn't matter as long as you do both sides. It's really important at home that you get both sides of what we do so that we create balance. Take a look down at your feet. The heel of your foot out should line up with the arch or the heel of your back foot. Okay, we're preparing for triangle. Inhaling the hands up, exhaling, hinge at the hips, and then tip right into it. Right into triangle. Bring that arm back. Find where this posture will hold you. So my body is really challenging me today. I don't have a lot of space to go deep. And it's important to honor that. We have a tendency to say, oh, well, if I push through this, it'll be okay. Not always. Breathe into it. Allow it to come in its own time. Inhaling, lifting up, tipping out of it. Exhaling the hands down. We're going to spin the feet around the other direction so that if you're going to draw a line from the heel to the back foot, you can do that. Adjust accordingly. Coming back to the center, then hinging at the hips. Exhaling, tipping out of it, finding triangle. Notice how triangle's different this way for me. I have more strength on this side. That's what I notice. What do you notice in your body? Breathe into the noticing. Allow it to be what it is. It doesn't matter where you look. You can look at the floor. You can look straight ahead. You can look at the sky. What feels good to you? If you do all three of them, you'll get dizzy. So maybe pick one. Inhaling, rising up, tipping out of it, allowing those arms to come down, spinning back around the other way. This time, we're going to sink into the knee. We've been doing Uttasana, strengthening the muscles around the knee. So sink down into the knee. Inhaling the hands up, exhaling, sliding across the body, bringing that hand down onto your quad, and the top hand comes all the way up and over. Let's catch this beautiful lateral lengthening, breathing into it, lengthening out of your crown. Find your breath. Hang out here for 3 more breaths. Know where to go. Nothing to do. Simply inhaling into this lateral opener. Inhaling that arm back up, spin that hand around, drop that hand behind you. Open that heart. Now, if you're feeling super stretchy today, you can bring that hand behind you and reach for it. I'm going to just reach for my upper arm and spin open, spinning open through the hips, spinning open through the shoulders, breathing into it. Know where to go. Nothing to do. Breathing into it. Inhaling that hand back up, rising up, coming out of it. Exhaling the hands down. Take a minute, 5-pointed star with no arms. So I guess that would actually be a 3-pointed star. And spinning the other foot. Sinking down into that knee. Now, as you sink into that knee, let that knee travel to the little toe. Inhaling the hands up, sliding across the body, setting that arm down on the knee. Inhaling your hand up, reaching it all the way over. Nice, long lateral motion. Breathing into it. Know where to go. Noticing what's opening. Finding your breath. 3 more breaths. Inhaling that hand back up, spinning that hand around, bringing that arm behind you. Again, choices. Choice 1 is to just bring that hand behind you. That might be your posture. The next choice would be to reach for your upper arm. For me, it would be the left hand reaching for the right arm. The third one is to reach down and really twist down to it and connect your hands. I'm getting closer, but I'm not there yet. So, no forcing. Honoring. I'm still reaching for my upper arm. I'm okay with that. I'm going to look back up over my shoulder to make this a nice deep twist all the way to the left. As we're sinking into the right leg, breathing into it. Inhaling, exhaling, soften your toes. If you're gripping the mat, soften those toes. Those toes don't need to be working. Inhaling, lengthening that arm back up, rising up, coming back out of it, spinning those feet forward. Now we're into 5-pointed star. Feel the strength. Notice what's happening. Do a little lateral movement and maybe a little forward movement with that spine. See if you can feel some loosening and freeing up in the spine. Grow long in the crown. Feel the power of 5-pointed star. Close your eyes. Drop out of your shoulders. Lengthen through the crown. Two more breaths. Last one. On the next inhale, you can jump. You can walk your feet in. Whatever works for you. No jumping in this body today, but coming back into mountain pose. Find your mountain. Grow long in the crown. Open your hands to the front of the room. Now, If you feel like your feet are too close together, take a quick look. Are your toes under your hips? My feet are too close together, so I'm going to open them up a little bit. We're going to prepare for some balance. We're going to come into just a parallel movement. So we're going to pour into our right foot. I will probably be opposite of you, but you pour into your right foot. Begin to feel that left leg rise. Just let your toe be on the floor for a moment here, and then touch your hips. See if you can get a sense of the hips evening out, and then lift that foot off the floor. Flexing the foot, and then bringing the hands to parallel. Right here. Finding your breath. Locking in on one point and looking at it. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. If you're wiggling around, it's okay. Allowing balance to come to you. Exhaling, stepping down. And then take a minute, wiggle those legs, give yourself some room in the hips, and then come back to mountain, hands facing forward. Now, close your eyes, check in. How does the left side feel different from the right side? Just notice. And as you're noticing, begin to pour into that left foot. Same thing. Let that toe give you the space to find where balance in your hips occurs. Engage your pelvic floor, belly button to the spine. Lift through that foot, flexing the foot, bringing the arms parallel with the knee, finding something to look at. The Dristi point, it's a point that's static, no movement. If you're looking at the camera, I'm moving all over the place, you'll fall down. So find something on the floor to look at and breathe into it. And exhaling, coming down, stepping that foot wide, and then give yourself some circles to the hips. We're gonna build onto this balance. We're grounded into the earth. And so now it's time to balance. Coming back into mountain pose. So we did the parallel. So let's now pour into the right foot, bringing that knee up with the hands up, and then opening your leg into tree. Now, hands are still parallel. Bring them out to the side here and draw the hands into field goals or cactus. Let this be your tree pose. Looking at one point. Breathing into it. Nowhere to go. Exhaling out of your arms, stepping out of tree, step wide out of tree. Give that right foot a little space, do some circles in your ankle, do some circles in your hips. What's really delicious about balancing is it's okay to move. It's okay to juggle things around. In our life, as we're balancing our life, sometimes we have to shift and move things around to find balance. Find your mountain pose. Pour into that left foot. Foot comes up, hands come up, open that leg. Hands come open and arms come overhead. If you have the space, if not, you can do cactus. And if there's no space for that, put your hands on your hips. That's a great place to practice tree pose from. Breathing into it. Inhaling, exhaling, stepping wide. Opening those feet, giving yourself some big circles. Going the other direction. Breathing into it, side to side. Nowhere to go. Opening up those hips. Grounding down through the feet. Finding your way back to the front of your mat. Taking a nice deep inhale up. Exhaling, swan dive forward, letting your hands fall on either side of your feet and stepping back into downward facing dog. Here's your dog right here. Walk it out. Sink back into dog for 5 breaths. Three more. And last one. Inhaling, sliding through into plank and lowering straight down. There's no pause there. I just want to bring you onto your belly, hands underneath your shoulders. So I always have to walk back on my mat. Lengthen through the right leg, lengthen through the left leg, hands underneath your shoulders. Engage that pelvic floor and lift up into a little cobra. We're going to have 3 breaths in this little cobra, and then we're going to lower down. So 2 more. And last one. And lower down. Take a quick break, touch your forehead to the floor, and inhale, deepen into it. Engage that pelvic floor, coming up into this back bend. This is the back bend part of the spine. Exhaling, lowering down. Taking a break, taking a nice deep inhale, exhale. Re-engage that pelvic floor, feel that pubic bone press to the floor, and exhaling up into cobra again. Go as deep as you want. It doesn't have to be this high. It could be low. Make sure your shoulders are away from your ears. Lengthening through your crown, pelvic floor is engaged. 2 more breaths. And exhaling, lowering down. This last time, from cobra, if you feel the movement to go into meditation and motion, then do so. Inhaling, rolling those shoulders back. Exhaling, lifting up. Right up into cobra. Pelvic floor is engaged. What can you let go of that you don't need? If the body wants to move into meditation and motion, eyes are closed. You let it without question. Stay in cobra or go ahead and move into child's pose. Whatever works in your body. Two more breaths. Sometimes the body needs another downward facing dog. And then the next inhale, begin to find your way into child's pose, resting on the floor. Drink it in. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. On the next inhale, rising up and spinning around, coming to lying, or actually I want to be seated with our feet in standing. Right here. So bring the body up close to your quads. So as if we're in forward fold, but this is seated, so we're walking our feet in. So we kind of have the same motion happening, but we're on our sit bones, growing long in the crown, shoulders are down. Inhaling, bringing the hands out beside you. So I'm going to teach from level 1 just because of what I'm doing. But for those of you who want level 2 or 3, you can always lift your feet off the floor in this posture or come into full, like a full V position with your toes pointed to the ceiling. Do whatever you want. I'm teaching from level 1. So inhaling, we're going to exhale back and inhale up and exhale back and inhale up. So moving, inhale and up and exhale back. Just strengthening that deep core, that lower back. Most of this work is coming from the space between the belly button and the pubic bone. Except we're keeping our shoulders down. We're going to do 3 more. 2. And on this one, slowly begin to roll all the way down. Hands come up overhead. Point the fingers, point the toes. Adjust accordingly, however you need to. Point them, reach, 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 reach. Inhale, exhale with a big sigh. Draw that right knee in. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. And then hands come down beside you. Flex that right foot and then lower that leg by just having the heel about 1 inch off the floor. And then hover. Keep that pelvic floor engaged and lower it down. Bring that left leg in. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it. I want 1 more on this side. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, release it out. Hands come down beside you. Heel comes 1 inch off the floor. Gauge that pelvic floor, slide it out, lower it down. Now walk both feet in the width of the mat right here. Opening the arms into a T position if you have the space to do so. If you don't, you can cactus your arms. Engage that pelvic floor so that you can really take the arch out of that low back. Take a nice deep breath in and let your knees travel to the left. So when we let our knees travel to the left, it kind of twists through the right side. In this position, this is a really gentle twist. You can deepen it by putting your left foot on top of your right knee. But what's really valuable about this twist is that it catches all the way through the IT band of the leg. The muscle of the IT band is right up here at the top of the hip, and it gets really tight. We do a lot of sitting, and so then it's shortened, and then when we get up to move, we ask it to elongate. So this helps elongate that muscle. You also might feel some opening down the front of your quad. Breathing into it, you can be looking at the ceiling, or if you'd like to deepen the twist, you can turn your nose towards the right. So this is more of a wringing out motion. We're breathing into it. Inhaling, drawing your nose back to center, bringing your knees back to center, and then exhaling them the other way. If anything's in the way, you can move it out of the way. You want that right leg to be able to drop all the way to the floor. Again, same thing here. Engage that pelvic floor. Notice where you're meeting resistance. Take a nice deep inhale and turn that nose and look to the left, deepening this twist. Breathing into it. Nowhere to go. Just wringing it out, lengthening out those legs, creating some space so that we can move forward through life. Two more breaths. Inhaling, bringing that nose back to center, bringing those knees back to standing. Again, draw those knees into the chest. Just give yourself a little bit of rocking side to side. And then begin to find your way into Shavasana. What does that look like for you? Do you need a stretch? Do you need a lengthening? Do you need a shoulder stand to get there? Whatever it looks like in your body. But as you come into Shavasana, find your feet dropping open. And that pelvic floor softening. And the breath begins to grow shallow. And the shoulders fall into the earth as the hands drop open to receiving. And all tension drains out of the neck, right into Mother Earth as the eyes grow heavy in the head and the mind slips between here and there. Shavasana. And gently begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Inviting yourself back to now. And as you're ready, roll to your side. And doing so gently pressing yourself up. And back into easy pose. Hands come to your heart, taking a nice deep breath in. Blowing it all the way out. Again, deep breath in. Namaste. Have a beautiful day.